So let's get into the preview. Obviously, A&M is back in Cal Field for the first time in over a month after beating Florida, going on a 3-game road streak, going 3-0. This is going to be a welcome sight for Aggie fans who have just been supporting them on the road, supporting them from afar, watching this team, just knock down barriers. They're on a historic run right now. Obviously, first time 9-0 since 1992. And you are facing, like we just said, I probably should have saved that for this part, but you are facing a Shane Beamer-led South Carolina team that is 3-6. They have only won one game in SEC play. It was a blowout against Kentucky early in the year. They have not looked like the same physical team on both ends of the ball this season. Lenore Sellers, their quarterback, who was deemed probably the top prospect going into the 2026 NFL draft, he has obviously dropped down a lot. He has not looked like the complete quarterback that many of us thought the steps he would take. He looked pretty good, I would say, against Virginia Tech. That was an early win where we kind of thought, okay, maybe South Carolina is finding something. When they entered SEC play, it's just been ugly. It's been a team that cannot find any rhythm on offense. They have one of the worst rushing offenses, even though Lenore Sellers is one of the toughest players to tackle. He's a pure dual threat. Big guy, kind of built like Cam Newton in a way. Very hard to take down. Had 106 rushing yards, I think, last year against A&M and a touchdown. And again, if we're going back to last season, this podcast didn't exist yet. And I remember covering that game very vividly, watching A&M on the road again, an A&M offense that just did not have the weapons at wide receiver needed to beat a team like that on the road, like we've seen throughout this entire season. But again, this was a Marcel Reed-led game that it was tied at 2020. A&M had the momentum after, they had a little momentum. South Carolina hit a field goal to tie it at 20-all going into halftime. And speaking of like Bryce Anderson, who, hopefully comes back soon enough, one of the worst games for him. He was, one of the worst games for the defense overall. I mean, Lenore Sellers,
you just remember how many missed tackles there were last year.
They were just out physical. Yeah.
You don't want to. They, for lack of a better term, they got caught lacking.
Big margin.
Definitely a big margin. And I want to go back to a couple of the stats that kind of stuck out to me when previewing this. So if you take a look at the entire SEC, and now I understand why this point margin is so big, is that they rank dead last in the SEC in total offense. I mean, period. So that means they can't get anything on the rushing attack. They can't get anything in the passing game. It is less than 300 yards a game, which is 127th overall in the nation. Reminder, there are, I believe, 136 FBS teams.
Yeah.
So even with the talent that they have, they are not able to sustain drives. Now, could that be the defenses they're going against? Maybe. But in these SEC games, they are just not putting it together. So,
and as our buddies at South Carolina Voice College Football Network, the show over there, the O-line is very, very bad. They've given up, I believe it's 30-plus sacks this year. I think it's 33 total on Lenore Sellers. I think it's actually equal to his total sack numbers last year, which was 33. So there's still 3 games left, so that's pretty bad. A&M's gotten pretty lucky at facing these bad O-lines, and Cassius Howell has just destroyed them. I mean, alone, just the interior defensive line with App MarkRogersTV and Tyler Adam and DJ Hicks, they've really come on. It could get ugly, but at the same time, my biggest thing I wrote about this at Aggies Wire, Lenore Sellers is built different. And we did see against Alabama, it was a game they lost, I think it was like 29-22 at Williams-Brice Stadium. And it was a game that they had a chance to win. I mean, they controlled the line of scrimmage for a little bit. Sellers was finding some rhythm in the passing game. They had a little bit of something going in the run game. But again, just the better team prevailed, and they looked one-dimensional in the second half and really allowed this thing to slip away. And that's really been their problem all season. I get the O-line is bad, and I understand how if A&M or South Carolina had A&M's O-line, maybe things would look different because you give Lenore Sellers more time to go through his progressions. He does have 2 very, very good wide receivers led by Nick Carver, who's one of the fastest downfield threats in college football, very very physical guy as well. They don't have the run game, obviously, that they had last year, which was one of the main reasons they beat A&M. I mean, just they couldn't stop anything on the ground. And, it was a very balanced attack for South Carolina. That's why when you watched them last year, and again, their defense was better. They lost some guys. It happens every year. You have to cycle through in this transfer portal age. You're just not going to be what you thought you're going to be unless guys pan out. We've seen that with A&M's defensive line. We've seen how we didn't really – there's a lot of question marks there, but these transfers hit. These younger guys have stepped up, and they're now one of the best defenses in the country. But it's just been all bad for South Carolina. I know that obviously our guys on the Voice College Football Network channel, they know that. Any beat writer knows that. It's just all bad and sucky. And, the sun will come out tomorrow. I still think that Shane Beamer is a good coach, but I also think that it's one of those things where you could define this as a trap game, because we should mention South Carolina has been blown out. So I define a blowout as double-digit loss 4 times in SEC play. Really, one of their closest losses was to Alabama, which is surprising. Alabama, it's too bad if A&M does play Alabama in the SEC championship game this year. We'll have a lot to talk about them. They've been very underwhelming against, I would say, subpar competition this year.
Yes.
But again, you're going into a very, very tough environment in Kyle Field where, A&M is unbeaten. I mean, they haven't lost a game this season, but they've been dominant. And you just think that, Aggie fans, especially in the area, have not seen A&M play live. Well, a lot of them, unless they traveled, in over a month. This thing's going to be packed to the rafters. Could be close to sold out. It is an early game, so I don't know if it's going to be sold out or not.
I'm pretty sure this one's going to be sold out because
I can see that, yeah. And based on the matchup too. I mean, South Carolina isn't a rival, but it is the bottom trophy, and it is.
You do play for a trophy.
Yeah, which I saw a Texas beat writer, I'm not going to name, that didn't even know that was a thing. So these guys got to educate themselves on these matchups. It's kind of like Iowa State having to explain that they just don't know. You got to learn about those rivalries. But again, Marcel Reed talked about it today. Like he said, this is personal, and I couldn't wait to hear him speak this week about this, because covering that game last year, I mean, that was one of his worst games. I mean, there was an ugly interception he threw in a key moment. He just he didn't look like himself. This was a player who was not as confident. The blocking wasn't as good. They were dealing with some injuries up front. They were just not in sync. And again, did not have the type of weapons he has now, because, no offense to the guys, and even Noah Thomas, who's kind of balling out right now with Georgia, credit to him. That was really the only guy they had, was Noah Thomas, who could really be a difference maker and separate in coverage. And now you've got Casey Concepcion and Amari Craver, who we could spend 10 straight shows talking about the impact they've made. I mean, I don't think we even talked about them enough against Missouri, because at this point, it's just so consistent. These guys just keep doing their job, creating explosive plays. And again, Concepcion's speed. I mean, dear Lord, that is right, man. 48-yard touchdown. I think either you or somebody else posted it, and I just kept watching. I'm like, he really is one of the fastest players on the planet right now. I mean, man. Anyways, it was just one of those games where you just knew that Reed couldn't throw himself. Throw to win. Essentially, he couldn't win it with his arm. They would have to establish a bounce attack. They lost, most importantly, Le'Veon Moss in that game for the season, which completely dismantled this that season. And he talked about that too. Like, it ruined us. Like, we were done after this. I mean, we beat our home, opponent. I think they were playing New Mexico State or somebody. I forget. You lost 2 consecutive games to Auburn and Texas. It was done. And mainly it was because you lost your star, but it was the way South Carolina beat you, and it was the way they out-physicaled you, it was the way they did everything better than you, and scored 24 consecutive points in the second half.
Yeah, 24 consecutive points in the second half is just a recipe for disaster. But
ask that to LSU. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely ask that to LSU right now. I think if you guys have any inkling of what's going on with Brian Kelly's lawyer situation, let us know, because we find it confusing, and we even have seen most of it. So
I'm so confused by all of it. I have to call my own lawyer to tell me what's going on there.
Yeah.
ridiculous. But
I have a couple of stats I want to read off to you.
yeah,
And I want you to guess which one is top 100 in the nation as a team. All right? For South Carolina.
yeah, shoot.
So I want you to guess which one of these is the highest on this list or is top 100. Total offense, scoring offense, rushing offense, passing offense, third down conversions, and sacks allowed per game. Are any of those or which one of those is top 100 in the nation?
Third down, maybe.
None of them.
Oh, really? Okay.
In fact,
How bad it is. Okay.
total
Maybe
offense,
one.
total offense is 127th.
Okay.
Scoring offense is 118th. Passing offense is, yes, rushing offense is also 118th. Passing offense is 102nd. Third down conversion rate is at 121st. And sacks allowed per game is 131st, which is one of the bottom 10 teams in the nation.
I mean, look, I always think there's at least one area that they've succeeded. I would have thought maybe it was third down because Sellers is such a big guy. He's a threat with his legs, especially if it's a short yardage situation. He can maybe just sneak it in. I mean, but again, if you just don't have any semblance of consistency on offense where you can't run the ball at all, you haven't really established any type of passing game, which is kind of crazy to me because you got two very good wide receivers, in my opinion. I just don't get it. I mean, is it all on Sellers? Because that's why it kind of did suck. We couldn't get a certain South Carolina beat writer on here to talk about this, and that just happens with timing. But I really don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. I understand having a battle line. Like I've said, when you have a battle line, it screws up everything. I mean,
it does.
And you basically you can't do anything right because we talked about this A&M all offseason. If A&M's offensive line was going to be elite, A&M would probably be undefeated. Well, there you go. They've been probably the best O-line in the country, maybe top 2 or top 3 compared to a couple other units. But in the SEC, best O-line in the SEC by far. That's why you're 9-0. That's why you have a rushing offense that is top 25, I think. Passing offense is top. They're all top 20. I mean, you're balanced in every aspect of your offense. If you are that bad at everything you do, that's why you're an 18-point favorite at home because, this is a personal game for A&M. It's a personal game for the defense. I think it's more personal for the defense than Marcel Reed because they got thrown around like rag dolls. And, this was a night game. All the South Carolina student body was in it. They were just, I think they rushed the field, didn't they, after the game?
They rushed the field. And
yeah, I don't remember. I kind of blacked that game out because it was just all downhill from there last year. But again, it's just funny to me because the sides have switched. A&M was the downtrodden team. South Carolina was the rising star. We all thought that they were going to be a contender. Most of the national media felt they were going to be a contender, not just for the CFP, but possibly the national championship, especially if the Norris Sellers had taken that next step. I know I could look back and there's probably somebody who said that. They say a lot of things, but that's all preseason stuff. How it's gotten this bad is, like I said, it's confusing. I would understand more if they were a middling 7-5, 8-4 team. I would get that. I'd be like, okay, that makes sense with the roster they have. But maybe O-line play is just that important to a guy like Norris Sellers, who just isn't an accelerated passer. He obviously didn't improve. We talk about it with Marcel Reed all the time. Most of the fan base was so worried about, him taking the next step. Well, he's done that and more. We talked about it, getting called out by Jalen Catalon. We got to make him play quarterback. Well, 20 for 29 and 221 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Well, you made him play quarterback. He's done that to you all season. You can't doubt anymore that he's a complete quarterback, that he's a guy you can trust every week. I go into every single game as someone who covers this team. I don't worry about Marcel Reed one bit. I haven't worried about him since, I'm trying to think, maybe Florida. Maybe Florida was the game where I was like, man, he's really got to score. Yeah.
I don't even think Florida. He was just having a tough time getting those deep balls to connect.
Yeah, maybe that was the only time. But other than that, based on how this offense runs, based on the weapons they have, based on how the run game has been going with Le'Veon Moss absent, I don't worry about this offense. And I'm not going to worry about them on Saturday because I think they are going to be ready for this game. I think this is, like I said, This is personal to everybody. This is personal to Mike Elko because he knows that if things kind of worked out differently last year, we might have been talking about an A&M team that made it to the CFP with that roster, right? With that kind of average offense, obviously led by a Le'Veon Moss having to have a career year. But still, if you didn't get hurt, if you won that game, if you beat Auburn, who knows? So I think he knows that. And the way that that season ended, losing to USC in that worthless bowl game, just the way they did, and leading into that offseason with a lot of stress and people really not believing in the program, where we're at now is kind of incredible to me. I think about it every day. And so you can't tell me that this isn't going to be a revenge game for this team because they don't care what South Carolina's record is. They don't. I get that Texas fans are going to look at it and go, well, they suck, you know. Well, so does Kentucky technically, but you had to beat them in overtime on the road. So it's not – this is SEC football. It doesn't matter who the opponent is, nameless, faceless. But for these guys, the way that Lenore Sellers kind of dominated them is going to be in the back of their minds all weekend.
Yeah, definitely in the back of their minds. And then the one stat that was in the top 100 is rush defense, but rush defense is 82nd and allows around 153.5 rush yards a game, which just kind of plays into A&M's favor anyway. So now we're kind of seeing why this line is as sizable as it is. I'm interested to see who shows up on the availability report tomorrow for the first time. We saw last week that, or at least in week 10, that Dylan Stewart popped up for a little bit and was a game time decision, was available. So he played against Ole Miss. A couple of other people as well. I mean, I think a DB named Buddy Mack showed up as well. I don't think necessarily that it's going to be as big. So we'll see where it comes or what injuries that they do have, but it should be a full squad versus a full squad for the most part for A&M versus South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's actually good to go into that because Mike Elko did speak yesterday, and I don't think it was breaking news for anybody, but Scooby Williams, who did miss this game, even I mean, all I can do is laugh about it. The fact that Damian Sanford is a backup linebacker. He's now a two-time SEC defensive player of the week, had another incredible game, just flying over the field.
I guess we shouldn't say backup anymore. We should say rotational.
He's rotational. I can't say backup. He's rotational because at this point, he's going to play every game. They're going to find a way to use him even when Scooby Williams is back. And I think that actually helps Williams, who has been dealing with some injury issues. Mike Elko said he's making progress. He's close to returning. I could see him returning for this game. I think that he just needed a week off. Maj Reed Adams, obviously Texas A&M starter right guard. He did leave the game after the first half. You saw him street close hugging Marshall Reed after the game. Some people were a little confused by that. Like, maybe some people didn't even know he wasn't playing at that point. Sometimes you just lose track when A&M's kind of dominating. But he was just dealing with, I guess, a stinger or something. He's good to go. He'll be back.
He should be completely fine.
And again, credit to the staff for managing these injuries the way they have. Obviously, when you have that type of depth, when you have a guy like Damian Sanford, who, is obviously going to be a starter and a star next season, getting in there, giving you great snaps, productive snaps. Obviously, he was on the end of that sack fumble that led to I'm blanking
Brooks.
Dalton Brooks, thank you. God, I don't know how I forgot that, but his fumble return to the goal line, which set up A&M's first half touchdown. Yeah, it's just incredible to watch. I couldn't be happier to see that because he was the guy that you and I kind of talked about. I remember talking to Carter Carroll's Gig 24/7 earlier this year about his rise in the spring and how he's looked and how obviously that continued to the fall. And yeah, it's quite an advantage to have, especially in a position where you do need consistency, especially this weekend. Having Scooby Williams back against a guy like Lenore Sellers can be big. So good news for them. So I do expect Williams to be probably questionable. The biggest thing is obviously Le'Veon Moss, which we're just really not going to talk about because there's not really anything new to discuss. Mike Elko said, I think it was last week before they played Missouri, that, we're hoping that he comes back in the regular season. I think they know by now they're going to the CFP. And if you can get him back for Sanford for just a handful of snaps.
Maybe if you even have him pop up as questionable for the Sanford game.
That's the thing, right? Because it is kind of a weird situation because the way that Ruben Owens is playing right now, he was clocked as the fastest player in college football last weekend after his run, which is surprising because that Casey Concepcion was a little faster, but good for him, man. 21 miles per hour. He can move. He's got wheels, and he's starting to find his groove. Like, there were some moments, behind the line of scrimmage, kind of setting up his blocks, the vision wasn't there, but right now he's playing at a very high level. EJ Smith's playing pretty well. Jamarian Morrows was getting like 30% of the snaps. Mike Elko did say after the game or on Monday, actually, the reason Amari Daniels did not play was just the pecking order. Just, we've got guys in front. He does believe that he's going to get him back in the rotation. They just have a wealth of talent back there.
It's a lot of running back talent.
Incredible compared to last season, right? You had Amari Daniels, and then he had a walk-on. That was pretty much your depth chart after Le'Veon Moss got hurt.
I mean, we were talking last year, could Dalton Brooks take those running back snaps with all the injuries going on?
And they were asked about that today, too, about Dalton Brooks getting some snaps in the backfield, or on Monday about snaps in the backfield. It's like probably not going to happen. But people do forget that he was a running back in high school. Like, that's why he has that speed. I think a lot of people are like, man, that guy's fast. Well, he did everything in high school. So he's just a pure weapon there. But again, just a wealth of riches they have at key positions. But yeah, Moss and Scooby Williams' status will be interesting to see on that first injury report tomorrow. I think we could see a possibly change in Moss's designation, but I think they're just keeping that quiet right now because of the advantage it gives you. You go to you look ahead to Texas. If you can get a completely healthy Le'Veon Moss back for that game, I think that's a bigger boon. I think they're going to keep that secret for a while. But I do agree with you. If he is healthy and you just want to get him back on the field for a couple reps, I think getting him in there for the Sanford game, maybe he can get a big run, just kind of get his confidence back after missing. It would be now 4 games. That's probably a good idea. But again, if you want to save him for what will be a monumental game, that's probably a good idea too.
Yeah. And on that, let's get into the keys of this game. I think that if we're looking at this game from where we are now, you and I, we are already believing along with Vegas that A&M is going to win handedly. But this doesn't even feel like a trap game to me like it did last year. But where are the ways that A&M can get burnt from certain things? I think this is a game where you are going to look at those things and see, how can we shore up on those sides? There's a lot of the national narrative going around right now that the top 3 teams, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, they haven't necessarily shown a lot of inherent weaknesses in their games, which is why their records are as good as they are. But when South Carolina, a still very talented South Carolina team, comes to town, you are trying not to show where you can get hurt, whether that be over the top on passes. You don't want to get hit with the explosive plays right back after you're one of the best teams in explosive play rate. You're trying to have these things put on tape so that when you're going against the end of season, whether it's Texas or whether you're in the SEC championship game, you don't have this extra added value for the other team that's playing you. So I think a key in this game is not showing where you can get hurt.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is just don't miss your tackles. Don't let Lenore Stellers make plays out of the pocket, because we do know that this pass rush is going to get home. We do know that one of the biggest problems was over pursuit. Shamar Stewart, who's now with the Cincinnati Bengals, over pursued a lot last season. One of the reasons his sack numbers were just so low for his career at A&M didn't mean he wasn't a successful pass rusher, because pressures are everything, especially in the NFL. People always look at sacks. Pressures are actually more important because it speeds up the QB's internal clock. It usually results in mistakes. That's been a big strength for Cassius Howe as well. He's been racking up the sacks, but he's had a ton of pressures. He's gotten in the face of quarterbacks. You got to finish though, and you got to be better at getting a hand on him, not letting go, getting low. You can't tackle him high. He's a huge guy. I mean, he really is built like, I don't know. It's Cam Newton-esque. He's just such a big body, right? He looks like somebody
quarterback.
Yeah, maybe like a linebacker, even like a big, like old school middle linebacker. I mean, he's like kind of like a butt kiss, that type of size. So it's very tough. And you ask any linebacker, corner, safety. I mean, you got to hit him low, not hit him low, like hit him in the knee, not like dangerous hitting, but you got to tackle him low. You got to get him to the ground. You got to get him off balance. So that's going to be the key there. I mean, because offensively, I think A&M's going to have a ton of success. I think that Dylan Stewart, who's been a good player, signed a big NIL deal to stay with South Carolina. He has 3.5 sacks on the year so far. Hasn't really lived up to that potential yet. He's still a great prospect. I think he's going to probably have a better year next year. Sometimes these guys have down years. It happens all the time. But yeah, I think that keeping him contained, not letting any of those edge rushers win the day. A&M has not allowed that once yet. I think according to PFF, they didn't allow a sack. I think they said they allowed a sack, but they really didn't. And they allowed, I think, 2 pressures total. Or maybe, I think it was 2 pressures total.
I think 2 pressures. I mean, in the Missouri game last week,
we
saw a kind of broken play outside of the pocket where Marcel kind of had to take a sack.
Yeah. I don't think PFF counts that because the O-line technically didn't give up the sack. It was because he took a lot of time. He had adequate time to get the ball out. So they're not going to credit that, which again, very impressive. So I don't see that being any type of threat. Obviously, you have 2 tackles who Trey Zoom, left tackle, has the highest pass protection grade in the country. Demetrius Crownover is consistently praised as an NFL prospect. He's done a great job in pass pro. Marcel Reed's going to have time to pass. He's going to have time to find his elite wide receiver corpse. And again, the run game, I think you're going to see another big game by Ruben Owens. I think he's due to have consecutive, possibly 100-yard outings. I think he could shoot off another huge gain, 40 to 50 yards. I mean, the 57-yard run was, I think, a season high for A&M in total. Yeah. And I think a lot of those I think that's just the start, right? Because you're playing against a tougher defense. Now you're facing a defense that, again, statistically you can exploit early on. And it just depends if South Carolina is ready, right? Again, early game, and when you're a losing team, we've seen this with past A&M teams, a lot of times you just don't show up. And if you are the hosting team, and this is a personal game, like I've said 100 times already in the show, you're going to show up. And you're ready to end this thing early. And I think that's what they want to do. They want to get up by a sizable score going into half, not have to worry too much going into the second half. I know Mike Elko wants that, similar to what they did against Missouri, holding that 14-0 lead. I think if you can do that at home, you can clean things up going into the second half and dominate this team. You move on to Stanford, and then 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about Texas A&M versus Texas. And again, based on how Texas performed this weekend, that could be a huge game for both teams.
Yeah, I think in this game, what I am looking for specifically is, can you get up early? Because the only times we've
100%.
really seen them get up early is it's Florida, but they allowed them to stay in the game in that first quarter.
Yeah.
So can you get up early? Because a lot of the games we've been shown so far in that first quarter is kind of feeling out the opponent while not breaking. Can you now just kind of take the top off of this game script and just run away with it? I think if you are getting up early, you are going to beat down this South Carolina team who has already had it bad enough so far. And that's not any slight against them. It's just what's happened. Can you get up early on these teams? Because if you can get up early and get into a habit of seeing success with your offense, while also being able to force those early 3-and-outs from your defense. This is one of the best third down defenses in the country. Mm-hmm. So can you keep that level of consistency up, and can you win in multiple ways? Because you are going to need that come this Texas game, potentially this SEC championship game, and potentially the playoff game that you have as well.
This is another chance to improve in certain areas, especially run defense. And I think someone did say, I'm blanking on who said it, but these are nice kind of champagne problems to have. And when Mike Elko left, I think it was the post-game press conference when he did say, like, we were terrible against the run. Like, we allowed 200-yard rushers They destroyed us on the ground. And he was serious. He's not like looking at that and going, we won by 21, so I'm fine. He was pissed. I mean, he knows that these type of performances by his run defense where they look good for a couple drives and then they just let guys just run all over them. It's a weird run defense. You know what I mean? It's like we said, it's a 43rd ranked run defense, so it's not horrific. And it keeps opponents in check most of the time, especially in the second half. But like we said, when Torian York is missing tackles, when the safeties are missing tackles, when you're facing a guy like Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy, who are just elite backs or NFL level backs, they're going to tear you apart, and they're going to get chunk yards. They're going to evade tackles. They're going to shed you off, and they're going to find the end zone. And even though South Carolina does not have those type of guys outside of Sellers, if he just has a Superman type game, which the comment on our page right now is trying to play hero ball. They're right. Playing hero ball is not going to get. Playing hero ball is you're going to throw interceptions. A&M doesn't really get a lot of interceptions, but they could in this game because Sellers is really prone to do that. You're just going to put your team behind the sticks. So for South Carolina to have any chance of keeping this a low scoring affair, they have to play great defense, which they really haven't done all season outside of maybe the first half against Alabama. And they're going to have a balanced attack. They're going to have to be able to run the ball. And Sellers is going to have to run the ball himself. Like he's going to have to get those gains where, the pocket's submerging, he finds an opening, gets 5 to 6 yard pickup, and just kind of wears A&M's run defense down. That's the only chance they have. I do believe that A&M's run defense will allow a couple big runs. I think we'll be sitting there early in the morning, and we'll see whoever's in the backfield for South Carolina pick up a 10 to 15 yard gain, and you'll go, oh crap, same issues. And then they'll stop that, and then they'll plug up the holes, and it won't happen. Then it will happen again. That's just been the problem. But they have a full week of practice. Torian York knows how bad he was, I think. And I keep saying Torian York, there were a lot of guys missing tackles. He's the leader of this defense. He's the vocal leader. He's the green dot. He's the guy calling plays. They'll get this fixed. I don't think it's going to be perfect. I think this is going to be a weakness off and on. And, when we get to the CFP, obviously there are matchups there. There are going to be teams that are going to try to exploit them on the ground. But right now, talking about it, Joel Klatt, I just remember, was the one who basically said, well, they can't stop the run. That doesn't make any sense because if they couldn't stop the run, they literally couldn't stop the run, right? Teams would just be running all over them, have that advantage. That hasn't been, it's just been spotty, I guess is the best way to say it. It's been spotty. Run defense has been spotty. It's been really good. It was really good for a little bit, and then it was bad. Now it's kind of like in the middle. It's kind of average, and you're just kind of like, but they've been blowing teams out, so you're just not really looking at it. But you have to now because A&M's been so good in every other aspect. So you have to focus on it now.
Yeah, you definitely have to focus on it now. So knowing all this information, especially with the statistics that we brought up, have you kind of made any tweaks to your prediction? Because I would love to hear your prediction for this game.
So right now, I was kind of close to. I swear, I don't know why I'm getting good at predictions now. I used to be horrible at them. You can look back at my old Aggies Wire stuff for last year. I was terrible at them. I think it was like 2 for 3 for something. I don't know. But I think outside of picking Notre Dame early in the season, I'm undefeated there. That was a mistake. But I picked A&M to beat Missouri 31-21. So I guess I was kind of close with how they were going to score. But right now, I just think the way they're playing, I think returning home, I will continue to say, I get your point. Like you have to wake up for these games. You have to be ready. Even if you are the home game, you don't completely have the advantage because sometimes road teams who are, focused and really want to shake things up and keep it close in the first half do show up a little stronger and play a little better. But like I said, I mean, hearing the players talk this week, these guys are completely focused on this team. They're not looking ahead. Nobody's asking about Texas. Nobody's talking about Texas. If you talk about Texas next week, especially if Texas beats Georgia, I get it because you're playing Stanford. You're going to be like a 30-point favorite in that game. You should steamroll them, and it is okay. I get it if you want to talk, but I guarantee Michael is going to get pissed about that. So either way, I'm sticking with, I think A&M is going to put 30-plus points up. I think it's probably going to be – I'll say I don't think it's going to be 35, but I will say probably 35 to to 10 right now. I think South Carolina will get a late touchdown. I think they'll struggle throughout the game. I think A&M at that time will have at least a 20-point lead, and they may put some defensive backups in there, especially at linebacker. And I think that might allow an explosive play, or more Lenore Sellers finding a gap and running for 20 yards or something and setting up a touchdown. So I think it's going to be another blowout. I think that A&M is going to control this game completely in the second half, and I think they'll be on their way to 10-0 record.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So with my view of this game, it's eerily similar. Besides the rushing aspect of Lenore Sellers, it's eerily similar to the matchup that A&M had last year with Missouri. You're in a home spot at 11 a.m. with a team that you had a chip on your shoulder because they beat you before, right? So now they're coming into your place at 11 a.m. And you are ready for it. They have a wide receiver that can take the top off you. They have another wide receiver who has a little bit of talent as well. So in Nick Harbor, very much similar to, I guess, in this comparison scenario to Luther Burden from last year. And then for this game, I really do think that I'm going to predict the widest margin we have, or that I've made. I really do think that this is a game where A&M is going to have a lot of success on offense, and this defense is going to show out in a big, big way. So I'm very, very close on your South Carolina prediction. I think they only score 13 points in this game.
But, yeah, I can see that.
But 13 or 14, I think they do have one of those cap buster plays where one player misses a defensive assignment. I think that does happen in this game, where it gets South Carolina these extra yards to kind of show up on paper. But I think A&M scores 49 points in this game.
Okay.
I'm going 49-13 end score. I have watched this South Carolina team. I think that this A&M defense can get to Lenore Sellers and not overcommit and not overpursue this time. We've seen it many, many times already where Damian Sanford, Cassius Howell, they've been able to rush after the quarterback outside of the pocket. And that's what I'm looking for this time is, can you successfully wrap up? And I've seen them successfully wrap up this season. So it's a very, very big disparity with the points right now. I'm taking A&M to cover massively. I might take an alternate line for them to cover massively. I'm very, very high on this game for the Aggies, so I'm taking A&M to win 49-13.
Yeah, we'll see what the updated odds are on Friday. I think based on the injury report, if they're missing a couple players, or A&M's even healthier, I think this could be like a 20 point spread. I just think it's a bad matchup. I think that South Carolina has not shown any ability to beat a team like A&M that's so balanced, that has so many explosive players. It's just terrible for them. I mean, I do think like Nick Harbor could have one of those contested catches downfield, kind of like we saw against Missouri. Like that could easily happen, and they'll think they're gaining momentum or something. But kind of like that 4th and 3 call, fake punt that led to Dalton Brooks' 48-yard run. Mike Elko is going to take chances. I wrote about it after the game. He's a risk taker this year. He is all in on this team winning. At any point, he's not going to let up. He's up, you're up 21-7. Missouri's got a little momentum trying to get the ball. Nope, we're not giving the ball back. We're just not doing it. And I think you're going to see that a lot. Even if A&M's up big, they're not going to give South Carolina any momentum at all to try to make this a close game. And like you said, I think that if the pass rush stays contained, doesn't over pursue, Lenore Sellers is going to be in for a very long and tough game. I just don't think that he's going to have time to go through his progressions. He really hasn't all season. And I think this defensive line is eager to get after him based on the way that he tore them up last year. I mean, think back to that play where he thought he was down, and then he's just running around. I think he gained like 10 yards or something. It's frustrating to watch, especially for a defense that prided themselves on physicality even last season. But, with the impact that Tommy Moffitt has made in the locker room, this team is one of the most physical. This defense is one of the most physical in football. And, they're not going to let this happen again. So I kind of agree. I'm going to stick with mine, but I agree. It could be 49-13 or 14, because you saw what they did against LSU in the second half in Baton Rouge. You're in Kyle Field. your fan base is 100% behind you. I mean, they were before, but they are even more behind you. I mean, it's just, I mean, anybody outside of the Texas A&M realm has asked me, like, what are the vibes? Like, and you probably got the same question. We haven't seen this before. We just haven't. I mean, this is kind of historic, and it's going to be loud, and it's probably, it might be hot too. I haven't seen the weather yet.
Well, we'll see.
It just does not play. I mean, I just don't think South Carolina has a chance in this game. I'm not even. I had a hard time. Like, people are calling it a trap game. I get it to a point based on last season. But I just don't feel it. I don't.
I've gotten over that apparently.
Yeah, so. Me too. I'm like, I don't feel it at all with this game. So, yeah, I
want this to be one of those SEC games like we saw this last week, where Garrett Nussmeier and DJ Lagway both got benched. I think this is a game where they're going to have to bench Lenore Sellers just for the sake of protecting him.
Yeah,
I want to see if South Carolina puts Luke Doty in. But I think that's where we can wrap up tonight.
Yeah, no, not laughing. I don't want him to get hurt.
You and I are on the same
I'm saying, like, I agree with you. It could get that bad.